Our Sunday morning theme of Blossom, as you've never heard it before, thanks to the turntable skills of cool DJ Marv here. In fact, people all over the country are starting from scratch, learning new uses for the old-time record player. Our Russ Mitchell spins the tale.
As schools go, Boston's renowned Berkeley College of Music is as cutting edge as they get. The curriculum is strictly contemporary, and then some.
Get up! Get up!
But you could say its latest sound is a sort of throwback to the past.
Out of the tree of life, I just picked me a plum.
Time was, the turntable was just for playing music. But today, it makes music. At Berkeley, it's the turntable as instrument.
The turntable is so physical, I don't think anybody realizes how much of that aspect is in it.
Is it fun to play the turntable?
Oh yeah.
Why is it fun?
Part of it's just the physicality of it. I mean, you can sit there and scratch a record across the platter and it makes a cool noise.
It motivates, I would say the frustration sort of adds to the fun just because you're like, I gotta figure this out. I gotta figure this out.
You don't want to come down too hard. Because when I tell people what I'm doing and I'm playing the turntable, most of the time they just look at me like, what are you talking about? And then bringing back the record with the crossfader closed again.
Steven Weber, a classically trained guitarist, is Berkeley professor of turntable technique.
When one does this,
yes,
you play it, what do you call it?
Well, it's DJing, first and foremost, but there is a subset of DJs that play the turntable as a musical instrument, and you call those turntablists. And the colloquial term that is used for the act of playing the turntable as a musical instrument is turntablism.
Turntablism to the faculty. To the kids, it's scratch. Here's a crash course.
The first scratch is just the basic scratch, which is also called the baby scratch, which is back and forth. Which is what I think most people think it ends there, but that's just the beginning. If you start going faster, if you get up into like 8th notes, 16th notes, you call that a scribble. And then you can get even faster, which is called an Uzi, which is like more of a muscle spasm, more or less.
But that's just scratching the surface. Turntablists use beats, notes, lyrics. In fact, anything, anyone ever set to vinyl is fair game.
Well, I'm not a crook. I'm not a crook.
Crook triplets.
For the casual listener, not to mention the skeptic, it can be enough to make your head spin.
Why do you consider the turntable a musical instrument?
Well, it's intention. There are many percussion instruments that are also double as other things, like baskets or kitchen utensils, for instance. But if you intend to use them as a musical instrument, they become a musical instrument. Now that's a baseline, that's setting the bar pretty low. But I think that the turntable has the potential in the hands of a master of being a very sophisticated musical instrument.
And there are masters, virtuosos like Radar, huge stars like the Executioners or Cubert, touring the country, building the repertoire of turntable music.
I wasn't in favor of it, and I'm very skeptical even now.
Noted jazz musician Gary Burton, winner of 5 Grammy Awards, is Berkeley's executive vice president.
It just seems to lack a lot of the musical elements that are important to me. Rich variety and harmony, varied dynamics, and more interesting rhythm combinations.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't mean that that I can just dismiss it just because I don't happen to feel much connection to it.
But what prompted you to change your mind and say, hey,
let's try this out?
Part of it was student interest. I always caution myself to pay attention to what the students are saying. If there's a lot of interest in something, that usually means there's something to it.
And at Berkeley, turntable technique has the longest waiting list on campus. Its coursebook is one of Berkeley Press's best-selling of all time. And there's even a turntablist club with guest DJs who draw quite a crowd.
Yeah, come on, yeah. Yeah, give it up, give it up.
There are people out there who are a little older than you are who would say, you know what, Sinatra, that was music. Luther Vandross, that's music. The turntable, that's not music.
They say that about every kind of music.
Yeah.
They said that about Elvis. They said that about the Beatles. They say that about Led Zeppelin. I mean,
They said that about Frank Sinatra.
That's what everybody just uses to say, I don't like that. That's not real music. Sinatra, now that was music. And it was great stuff. It was great stuff, but it's a different tradition.
So Flash, this is the old neighborhood, huh?
Yeah, this is the old neighborhood. This is like the...
The tradition of turntablism began on the streets of the Bronx in the mid-70s. These folks are more than pioneers, they're legends. Grandmaster Flash and later Grand Wizard Theodore both started as teenagers making music for block parties. It was the early days of hip-hop, and the goal? Keep the crowds dancing.
What I had to come up with was a way to take, whether it was rock, jazz, blues, funk, pop, R&B, take those tracks and make them one big song.
Now, when you were doing it, did you see it as an art form? When you first started out, did you say to yourself, I'm creating art here?
No.
Or what did you think you were doing?
I did it in frustration of because the best part of the record, you know, said was the get down part.
Yeah.
So I was saying to myself, how can I take this little teeny tiny part and make this the song?
And give me the definition again of the get down part.
The get down part was later called the
most
break.
exciting part of the record.
Counting.
The revolution was underway.
One revolution. One revolution.
What started out in the Bronx has become part of the musical landscape. If it all sounds like noise to you, listen to Berkeley's Gary Burton.
If you get an end result that connects with people and communicates, then you've achieved it. Art always reinvents itself and the way it's made.
Thank you.
What's interesting about this particular instrument from my standpoint is it's the only instrument that requires records, other music, to make music.
It's fascinating to me, the idea of taking information from a whole variety of records and mixing them together to make a sort of a collage of music, to make something new out of it. Now, in the art world, that would be, so what? We've been doing that for decades now. We cut up things and paste them together, and, you know, Warhol and Matisse and so on. We were doing things decades ago like this. To us, this is pretty radical.
And it's only beginning. A new generation of turntablists is coming up with all kinds of ways to take scratch to the next level. Like the Boston band Mystique. Some groups, like Gunkhole, have even discovered melody.
It's always been looked at as a rhythmic sort of instrument, but now we're actually incorporating melody into this and making it more ear-friendly.
The whole method is like very, very avant-garde, but the sound, the result is pretty digestible.
And now, brace yourselves. The first turntable concerto, performed by Radar.
I'm trying to make it appealing to not only to the younger generation, but to the older generation that can appreciate it as an art form.
You could say the sound of the turntable is only beginning to emerge. And who knows what's next?
Ahead on Sunday morning, a noteworthy dispute.